Next talk will be held by Bárány, and he will tell us something about the usage of Pentaho in a startup.
Hello, my name is Bárány. I'm a freelancer data scientist in Vienna, Austria, and co-founder of this company Scoot. So I'd like to speak about Pentaho in a startup. So what's Scoot? Scoot is Austria's first scooter sharing. You probably know car sharing. It's available in many European cities, and scooter sharing is something similar with smaller vehicles, two-wheel vehicles. In our case, we have a multi-class model, so in Austria it's possible to do an easy test or training for driving bigger motorcycles, not the biggest ones, but the medium class, and we also have some electric vehicles. So yeah, it's a free-floating scooter sharing. It's just based on your smartphone. You don't even need an app. You can use the web application. Yeah, the company was founded about 3 years ago, a bit more. How's the mic? I think it's going out. Okay? Okay?
It's okay right now.
Yeah. So it was founded a bit more than 3 years ago, and we started with the first renting in spring 2015. We already have about 90 scooters and 6,000 customers. There are some revenue sources. Of course, the direct rental is the most important source, but we are also working on as a wholesale platform provider. So we can either offer the platform as a white label solution, just sell it if you want to create such a business, or we can provide it for you. And we can also provide some B2B solutions, easier or simpler aspects of vehicle sharing or vehicle renting out. That would be also possible with the platform. About me, I'm a data scientist in Vienna. I'm a freelancer. I have some programming and system administration background, but at some point I changed to analytics and BI. And I'm a Pentaho user for over 10 years now. There are some really small patches of me in PDI. I think the last one was something like sequences in the Netezza database, so they work correctly. Sometimes I also blog about Pentaho topics and other topics at my site datascientist.at. Yeah, so I'm doing several projects, many at the same time sometimes, and I'm also the co-founder of Scoot. So originally we were three people, and yeah, I'm the IT guy, so I had to install the servers, and I have to keep them up to date and so on. So I of course learned a lot about general IT and administration. I'm not a developer, so classical software development has to be done mainly by an external programmer, but sometimes I'm able to fix some simple issues or build some features. Okay, most of you are probably not in a startup or haven't been. There are some special challenges in startups. So, of course, you have missing manpower. 3 people, only one of them has any IT affiliation. and so on. You don't have a lot of money in the beginning, but you would like to solve every problem at the same time, or you have to solve these problems. You need to do the tax reporting, you need to do invoicing, you need to fix bugs, you need to train service technicians, and so on. In the beginning, you don't really have an experience with this kind of business. Most people start as an employee of a company, have their clear defined tasks, and then in the startup you are HR manager and finance chief and so on, all at the same time. Sometimes you even develop things that are completely new, that haven't been done on this earth at any time. Yeah, we had specific challenges of not having a developer in the team, and in Vienna we have quite a complex environment in terms of parking vehicles, for example. So there are parking spaces where you can park your car, but not your two-wheeled vehicle. There are parking spaces where parking the car costs some money during the day, but you can park the two-wheeled vehicle, and so on. So this is quite complex, and we had a lot of towed vehicles which we had to bring back from where they were put, and that's always 260 euros. So, and that can happen quite easily. Okay, so how can you solve these challenges? In my case, it was use what I already know. So Pentaho, I've already worked a lot with Pentaho, and instead of learning some complete new program, even if it might have been more appropriate, I've used Pentaho. Of course, open source software, it solves two of the challenges. One is, of course, cost. You just don't want to invest a lot when you didn't even validate your business model. And the other thing is, with open source software, if you are developing some new business model or doing something completely new, which hasn't been done before, you can go into the source code and change it. So you can change this software to do exactly what you want. And yeah, the third thing, if you can solve it yourself, use external resources. Some architecture overview. So we have the user with a smartphone, the internet, and the user communicates with the web server, with a MySQL database in the background, while the scooters send their data to a so-called track car server. Track car is an open source vehicle tracking solution. It's quite good. The data go into a Postgres database because that has geographic functionality, very good geographic functionality, and everything, of course, is coordinated by a Pentaho BI server with some Pentaho data integration. Some use cases. Data integration is basically doing everything, so I really use it as a generic development platform. It applies business rules like the entire registration process, the sending emails to the customers who registered for verification. It's sending registration reminders. So of course we have to validate the driver's license of the customers, and if they don't send it, then we aren't able to activate them for driving. Yeah, it applies some business rules for creating the invoice line items for rides and for other things. We use it to calculate the length and the prices of the rides. Of course, this happens in PostGIS, in Postgres. Building is also done in PDI, both the logical level, the creation of database entries, and then the data export for the accounting, and some XML exports for communicating with the banks. So many people use direct debit, so we are getting the money directly from their account. That's quite popular in Austria, probably not in many other countries. And we even use it in operations, like there are some alarms, for example, if a vehicle leaves Vienna by a too wide distance, or it is going too fast, or it is moving without being rented, we just get an email or even some direct reminder on the smartphone. And sometimes we even need to replicate data between the databases. The BI server is used for kind of operational web applications, so it's not just passive dashboards for looking at data, but also for interacting with data. For example, the customer activation, we have a list of customers, and when we are ready to activate them, we just select them in the list and click the appropriate button and enter the expiration date of the driver's license, for example. Of course, we also use a map for vehicle tracking and management, and when you click on a scooter on this map, then you get a pop-up with some buttons for disabling or enabling this scooter, or you can even reposition it if you know where it is actually is. Instead of the GPS position, you can correct that. And there are some data management, like creating a new scooter is being done there. And of course, we are doing analytics, like for what it was intended, ride statistic, user statistics, and other KPIs. And of course, report designer, the invoices which are being sent to the customers are coming from an invoice template. They are generated by a PDI process, and this report template is also available in the BI server. So if we need a copy of the invoice or whatever, we can also open it in the BI server. And there are some simple data export reports. A few examples of dashboards. So this is a kind of start page or link list. This is the version for the administrators, and there are some, for example, people who are just vehicle administrators, so you don't have access to customer data, so they have a special smaller version of this with just a vehicle restricted and vehicle applicable actions. Here's a classical analytic dashboard with some charts. You can see the seasonality of this business, of course, at least in Vienna. So this is winter and this is summer. We have a 14-day average line. That's the red line here and here. So that gives you an idea how this works. And of course, on a rainy day, you have maybe 10 to 20% of the usage of the previous day. So it's really extremely weather dependent. Yeah, that's just how the business is. Yeah, this is the map that I described with some different symbols depending on the type of the scooter, depending on if it is rented or if it is even being driven. The yellow ones are currently not active, so they are scheduled for service by a service technician and so on. And we even have a small indicator if the scooter is maybe near a parking place where it could be towed or fined. So you see, it's really important. Another geographic analysis. So this is where people have been starting rides. So when we zoom out a bit and select a longer time period, then we see which areas are very good for putting a scooter after service or just driving it there. What I like about Pentaho a lot, of course, I can develop data handling processes very easily and very quickly. So this is a huge asset. It's really much faster than programming. It's easy to debug. It talks to really everything. It can import everything that I have been encountered. It can also export a lot of data formats. So for example, sending the data to the bank works well and so on. Also the development of dashboards and what I call web applications is very fast and without programming. I'm not a programmer, so we create a dashboard. I can copy some examples from Stack Overflow or whatever if I need to extend it, but usually I can work with the standard functionality of dashboards, and if not, they use standard open source components like open layers, for example, so I was able to extend it for all the functionality that I wanted. So for me, it's more than just a BI platform. At least in this project, it's mainly a development platform with BI functionality. Of course, if I were a developer instead of a data scientist, I would use other technologies, but in this case, I'm really happy with it. I asked the CEO what he thinks about this technology. He also works with other companies, other startups, and he told me that compared to other companies, he sees a very fast development of new features and fast integration of change requests. So when I show them a new dashboard or a new web app, he just tells me, okay, but I need this and this. Maybe it's done in like 15 minutes. He finds it is easy to use and the user interaction is nice, and he likes the data export and visualization features. So usually if a company is not co-founded by a data scientist or some analytics people, then reporting and dashboards are something that's just not available in the first few years. And in our case, this has been available almost from the start. He had one comment about the performance. So it is really noticeable that, for example, a complex dashboard with more than one chart and some tables is actually slower than some PHP program. That's of course true, but I think that's fine, and it's also a good balance to the development time. There are some problems I have seen with Pentaho components. The data integration is a bit slow to start up. Of course, it's a complex piece of software, it's written in Java and so on. I really hate the startup messages, which you can't switch on, like from the other Apache components. Yeah, so you actually have to redirect the output to that 0 if you don't want to get output from cron jobs. Yeah, maybe I should use cart to avoid these problems. And also the VI server is quite big, can be slow with some complex configurations, at least on the VMs that we pay for now. Of course, it would be much better on real hardware. There were some documentation issues, some missing documentation. For example, the map component hasn't been documented very well for a long time. But you can always rely on the community and on blogs and other sources. And yeah, there have been some behavior changes between versions. So the new version broke some functionality which used to work. In my case, the map markers, where you need to write some custom JavaScript so you can include the markers as before. Maybe some other technology that we also use, that I also like. If you have some use for analyzing geographic data, then I can really recommend Postgres and PostGIS. It's really the best database technology for our purposes. And there's also some so-called foreign data wrapper available, which you can use to transparently access MySQL tables. So you can just query them in Postgres as if they were native tables. Another software is called Postgres. That's an automatic web API. So you just define a schema in the database, put some tables or views into it, or even functions, and then those are automatically available as a web API. So you can do some interaction with data, like querying which vehicle is how far away from a dangerous parking place or whatever. So this is what we use in production. And yeah, I've already mentioned TrackCar. If you have a use case where you would like to track devices, or I think some people are even already tracking animals with it, like cows, with a GPS device on them, this can be a good solution. So my conclusions are, we realized a startup IT with exclusively open source software. We are in the 3rd year of operations with really good results. No big problems, no big stoppers, no crashes or whatever. And yeah, I couldn't live without Pentaho, the entire stack. I can develop my solutions very quickly, as long as they are data processing tasks. So not speaking about front-end development, it's really a good solution for integrating your backend, and it's really important to be a part of the community, so I can interact with people who can help me solve my problems. That's it. Thank you. I hope you have some questions, and you can find me at those URLs.
Question: why did you use both MySQL and Postgres? So each one had preferred database and not. Why the front-end web application was not using the Postgres?
Yeah, we actually bought the front-end web application from a company in Germany that did car sharing, and they stopped using it, so they stopped doing the business. and we just bought it from them, so that was given. Maybe I will migrate at some point, but yeah, MySQL for a data wrapper really takes the pain out of it.
And the other question was that well, you are doing quite many critical things in PDI, so do you do any automated testing for integration testing, and if something changes, like for billing purposes, for other purposes, or just manual testing?
Yeah, so the question was, are we doing any automated testing or other quality assurance? No, at this point not. I'm still the only developer, so of course I test things, but I don't have a systematic setup or systematic processes for it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so that's an important distinction between a startup and the big companies which most of are used to work in.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you very much.